All right, let's plunge headfirst into Dracula, the prequel to Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Oh, yeah, Dracula.
Now, we all know it's a creepy story, but
It is.
I think what we want to do today is go beyond just the horror.
Yeah.
And take a look at the history and personal connections that are kind of woven into the story.
Right. And that's what's so fascinating about it, is that it blends those historical facts with Gothic horror.
Right.
And these are real people, actual places and events inspired by Stoker's own life.
Yeah, it's like uncovering like a hidden history, especially because it's connected to such an iconic novel.
Absolutely.
It just makes it even more fascinating.
Yeah, and I think one of the best places to start this is with Bram Stoker's childhood.
Okay.
Because it really played a huge role in shaping his imagination and his fascination with the darker side of life.
So let's unpack that childhood.
Okay.
I know that he was sick a lot as a child.
Yes, he was bedridden until the age of 7.
Oh, wow.
So imagine that. Spending your formative years confined to your bed, absorbing stories.
Right.
Letting your mind wander to escape the reality of your situation.
Almost like that isolation kind of primed him for all the Gothic themes
Yeah.
that run through Dracula, like confinement and isolation.
It's a fascinating parallel.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just his own illness that shaped his worldview.
Right.
His mother, Charlotte, had a really harrowing experience as a young girl. She survived a cholera epidemic and wrote a very vivid account of it
Oh, my God.
that she later shared with Bram.
So he's like stuck in bed hearing these graphic tales of disease and death.
Exactly.
Wow.
And it's important to remember the historical context here, too.
Yeah.
The cholera epidemic was terrifying.
Oh, yeah?
People were dying left and right.
Yeah.
And there was this sense of helplessness, of not knowing what to do to stop it.
Yeah, you can see how that collective fear and trauma could seep into his young mind
Absolutely.
and kind of stay there
Yeah.
and then influence his writing.
Absolutely. And the influence of his physician uncle,
Right.
Dr. Edward Stoker, can't be overlooked either.
Yeah.
He exposed Bram to the world of medicine, but also to the mysteries of the human body and the fragility of life.
Right. So we're layering on these influences of illness, death, and the medical world.
Right.
Just like a potent mix.
It is. And he also grew up surrounded by Irish folklore and tales of the supernatural.
Of course.
Um,
It wasn't just a random interest in vampires that led him to write Dracula.
right.
It was this whole web of personal experience, family history, and these cultural influences.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that brings us to one of the most intriguing figures in this whole saga, Ellen Crone, the Stoker family nanny.
Okay, Ellen Crone. I have to admit, she is one of those fascinating characters
She is.
in Dracula.
Yes.
Her arrival at the Stoker household during the Irish potato famine is almost too perfectly timed.
It's certainly a striking coincidence.
Yeah.
Here's this family struggling to survive during a time of immense hardship. And suddenly, this enigmatic figure appears, offering help and stability.
Yeah, and it's not just the timing.
Right.
Bram describes her as eerily beautiful,
Yeah.
almost ageless,
Right.
as if she stepped out of one of those Irish folktales.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
It's almost as if Stoker is intentionally blurring the lines between reality and folklore,
Right.
even in his description of Ellen.
Yeah.
He even mentions her connection to Artane Castle,
Oh, yeah.
a local ruin steeped in its own dark history.
So you can't help but wonder if he drew inspiration from actual locations
It's very likely.
and the stories surrounding them.
And then there are those strange occurrences surrounding Ellen.
Yeah, like what's with her bed being filled with dirt?
Right.
Was she literally sleeping in the earth?
Yeah, it's such a bizarre detail.
Yeah, but it's so vivid.
It is.
It's unsettling.
It's a powerful image, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think it's meant to be more than just a quirky detail.
Right.
It suggests a deeper connection to the earth,
Yeah.
to something primal and ancient.
Almost like foreshadowing.
Almost like a foreshadowing of her Strigoi nature.
Ooh, good point.
Planting those little seeds of the supernatural early on,
Yeah.
making us question what's real and what's imagined.
Exactly. And then there were those like nighttime excursions that she would take.
Right.
Almost like she had secrets to keep.
Uh-huh.
Like she was letting a double life.
And then there's the incident with the dragonflies.
Oh, yeah.
Hundreds, maybe thousands of them, descending upon the children.
That scene is so creepy.
It's so visually disturbing.
Yeah, it's not just that dragonflies are scary.
Right?
It's the sheer number of them.
The way he describes them as a dark, swarming mass.
Yeah, it's like something out of a nightmare.
And it's interesting that this attack,
Right.
this brush with death, leaves young Bram with a newfound ability.
Yeah.
He can see in the dark.
Right, it's like a supernatural gift or maybe a curse.
Yeah.
But either way, It's all tied back to Ellen,
Right.
who nurses him back to health.
It makes you wonder about her role in all of this, doesn't it?
It really does. It's like she's both protector and a source of mystery.
Uh-huh.
Her arrival coincides with the family's greatest need.
Yeah.
Yet she brings with her this unsettling aura
Right.
and these strange occurrences that defy explanation.
And this is all before we even get to Patrick O'Quiff.
Right.
The man who seemingly committed familicide and then himself.
Okay, let's dive into that next.
Okay.
I'm dying to know how this all connects.
All right. So we have this horrific crime. This man, Patrick O'Quiff, murders his family and then takes his own life.
Yeah, it's a story that just feels ripped from the headlines.
Right.
Even today. But how does this connect to Bram Stoker?
Well, years after this supposed murder-suicide,
Okay.
Bram, along with his brother Thornley and sister Matilda,
Right.
they make a chilling discovery.
Okay.
They encounter Patrick O'Quiff alive and well years after he was believed to be dead.
Well, hold on. So the man everyone thought was dead
Yeah.
is suddenly back.
Yeah.
That's not just a plot twist.
Yeah.
That's a complete upending of reality. I can only imagine the shock they must felt. What could possibly explain that?
That's the question that haunts the story.
Yeah.
And it's not just that they see him alive.
Right.
Later, they find O'Quiff's beating heart in the Dublin morgue.
A beating heart in the morgue.
Yes.
That's not just creepy. It's a direct assault on the senses.
Right.
Like the idea of death as finality.
Exactly. It's a moment that clearly left a mark on Bram Stoker.
Oh, for sure.
This blurring of the line between life and death, the impossibility of it all,
Right.
becomes a recurring theme in his work, especially in Dracula.
You can really see the seeds of Dracula being planted right here.
You can?
This idea of the undead,
Uh-huh.
a heart beating outside of the body. It's so visceral. It's so unsettling.
And this encounter with O'Quiff fuels the siblings' curiosity,
Okay.
leading them on this quest to uncover the truth.
Right.
They journey to the unconsecrated graveyard in Clontarf.
Okay. An unconsecrated graveyard.
Yes.
That sounds like something straight out of a Gothic novel. What's the significance of it being unconsecrated?
Well, in Christian tradition, an unconsecrated graveyard is a place where souls are believed to be restless, unable to find peace.
Okay.
So it's a place on the fringes of society,
Right.
associated with the unhallowed and the unholy.
So it's not just a random setting. It already carries this, like, weight of unease and spiritual ambiguity.
Right.
What do they find at this graveyard?
Their findings only deepen the mystery.
Oh,
Instead of O'Quiff's remains,
right.
they discover rocks arranged in the shape of a human form
Oh, my gosh.
inside his coffin.
That sends chills down my spine.
It's like a mockery of a burial,
Yeah.
a deliberate act of deception.
Yeah, and it suggests there's a much bigger story at play.
Right.
This goes beyond a simple case of fake death.
And the discovery of Ellen's trunk hidden nearby adds another layer of intrigue.
Okay, what's in the con?
Inside, they find a journal written in Hungarian
Okay.
and a dazzling jeweled necklace.
Oh, wow.
Both items hinting at a life far more complex than anyone could have imagined.
A Hungarian journal. This is where the story starts to feel like a spy thriller mixed with Gothic horror. It's like these disparate threads are starting to weave together
Right.
into something truly unsettling.
It is.
How do they even begin to decipher this journal?
To understand the journal,
Yeah.
they enlist the help of Arminius Vambury,
Okay.
a renowned Hungarian scholar
Right.
and expert in folklore.
Oh, the expert who can unlock the secrets.
Yes.
It's a classic trope.
Right.
But it's also a reminder that sometimes we need outside help
Yeah.
to make sense of things that baffle us, to see the patterns that are hidden in plain sight.
Absolutely.
So what does Vambury's translation reveal?
Vambury's translation introduces us to Countess Dollingen von Gratz,
Okay.
a figure shrouded in legend.
Okay.
According to folklore, she was a strigoi.
Strigoi. Okay, that sounds familiar, but refresh my memory.
Okay.
What are strigoi exactly?
In Romanian folklore, strigoi are powerful undead beings,
Okay.
very similar to vampires. But they're not simply bloodthirsty monsters.
Okay.
They are often driven by very complex motivations tied to their past lives, their loves, their regrets.
So there's a human element to them.
Yes.
A tragic dimension that makes them even more frightening.
Right.
And you're saying this countess, this strigoi, is connected to Ellen Crone.
Vambury's description of the Countess matches Ellen Crone perfectly.
Wow.
So it's a revelation that ties together all these seemingly disparate elements of the story.
Right.
The mysterious nanny, the resurrected O'Quiff, the unconsecrated graveyard, and this ancient legend of the strigoi.
It's all starting to click into place, but it also raises so many more questions. If Ellen is this countess, this ancient Strigoi, what does it mean for Bram?
Right.
For the Stoker family?
That's where things get even more complicated.
Okay.
Remember the dragonfly attack?
Yes.
The one that left Bram with the ability to see in the dark.
Yeah. It was such a strange, almost symbolic event.
Yeah.
I'm sensing a connection.
You're right. It turns out that when Ellen nursed Bram back to health,
Yeah.
she gave him her blood,
Oh, wow.
inadvertently creating a psychic link between them.
A psychic link.
Yes, a bond that would tie their fates together in ways neither of them could have imagined.
Wow, that's a whole other level of connection.
It is.
It's as if she's imprinted on him both physically and psychically.
Exactly.
It adds this layer of intimacy to their relationship,
Right.
but also a sense of foreboding.
And it's this link that draws Bram deeper into the world of the Strigoi,
Okay.
into the orbit of the Dark Man, the figure known as Dracula.
Dracula. So this is where we finally encounter the name
Yeah.
that would become synonymous with like the ultimate vampire.
Right.
But who is Dracula in this story?
Dracula is more than just another Strigoi.
Yeah.
He's a powerful entity, a figure of immense darkness and ambition.
Okay.
And his connection to both Ellen Crone and Patrick O'Quiv is deeply unsettling.
Okay, I'm hooked. Tell me more about this Dracula and his connection to these characters.
Well, it seems that Dracula was using O'Quiv, or rather O'Quiv's son Dylan,
Okay.
as a vessel to carry out his evil intentions in the human world.
Hold on. I thought O'Quiv's son was dead.
That's where the layers of deception run deep.
Okay.
It turns out that Dracula was the one who orchestrated the deaths of O'Quiv's wife and daughter,
Oh, wow.
manipulating O'Quiv into believing he was responsible.
So this family history is twisted.
It is.
But why would Ellen turn Patrick and his daughter Maggie into Strigoi?
It's a desperate act, a choice made out of love and a desire to protect them from something even worse.
Okay.
Remember, Strigoi retain elements of their humanity, their emotions, their memories.
Right.
It's a form of twisted existence.
Yeah.
But in Ellen's mind, it's preferable to the complete annihilation of their souls that Dracula had planned.
It's a heartbreaking dilemma.
It is.
But what about Dylan?
Dylan, the only surviving member of the O'Quiv family,
Right.
he becomes the focus of Dracula's attention.
Okay.
For reasons that are still unclear. Dracula needed a living vessel, a human anchor,
Okay.
to maintain his power in the human world.
It's a classic story of a villain manipulating the innocent,
It is.
using them for their own dark purposes.
Right.
But what kind of power are we talking about here? What exactly is Dracula capable of?
Dracula's power is vast and frightening.
Okay.
He can control the Weather Command packs of wolves and manipulate the undead.
So he's a force of nature,
Yeah.
a figure who embodies those like primal fears
Yes.
that have haunted humanity for centuries.
Right.
So we have this epic battle brewing
We do.
between good and evil,
Uh-huh.
between those who seek to protect humanity and those who seek to exploit it.
All right.
Does this conflict come to a head?
It does.
Okay.
There's a climactic confrontation in the village and cemetery, a
Yeah.
scene that's both terrifying and heartbreaking.
Oh, no.
Thornley's wife, Emily, falls victim to the Strigoi curse.
Oh, gosh.
And Thornley himself makes a shocking choice, one that will have lasting repercussions.
Won't leave us hanging. What choice does Thornley make?
Well, that's where things get even more complex.
Oh, no.
Ellen, torn between her loyalty to Dracula, the man who turned her,
Right.
and her affection for Thornley,
Okay.
makes a decision that has ramifications for everyone involved.
Okay.
And the truce she reaches with Dracula is anything but comforting.
A truce.
Yes.
So it doesn't end with a clear-cut victory.
No, it ends with a sense of foreboding.
That's even more unsettling. What does this truce entail?
The details of the truce are shrouded in mystery,
Okay.
but it's clear that Ellen has made a bargain,
Right.
a compromise that leaves a lingering sense of unease.
Yeah.
Dracula ends not with a triumphant resolution,
Right.
but with a sense of foreboding, a suggestion that the battle between darkness and light is far from over.
It's a brilliant narrative strategy.
It is.
To leave us with this unanswered question,
Yeah.
this lingering sense of dread. It makes the story stay with you
Yeah.
long after you've finished reading it.
Absolutely. And it's a reminder that the battle against our own inner demons, against the darkness that exists within ourselves and the world around us,
Yeah.
is an ongoing one.
It's a powerful message and one that resonates deeply, especially given the historical context of the story. But how does this all connect back to Stoker's Dracula?
Right.
Are we saying that Dracula is based on a real person?
That's a great question. I think it's easy to get caught up in the historical elements of Dracula
Right.
and kind of start blurring the lines between fact and fiction.
Yeah.
But we do have to remember that Dracula,
Yeah.
while it's inspired by real events and people, is ultimately a work of imagination.
Exactly. It's a fictionalized account.
Yeah.
A reimagining of those historical and personal threads
Yeah.
that we've been discussing.
So he's not saying that Dracula is a real person,
Right.
but he's using those real-world elements to ground the story, to give it a sense of authenticity and weight.
Precisely. And that's what makes Dracula so effective. It taps into those primal fears.
Those anxieties about the unknown,
Yeah.
the things that lurk in the shadows.
It's almost like he's saying, hey, what if those stories that we tell about monsters,
Right.
those fears that keep us up at night,
Yeah.
what if there's a grain of truth to them? What if the real monsters are closer than we think?
That's a chilling thought, and it's something that resonates even more strongly today.
Oh, yeah.
In a world where we're constantly bombarded with information, with stories that blur the lines between fact and fiction.
Totally. It's almost as if Dracula serves as a kind of origin story. Not just for the character Dracula, but for, like, the anxieties and fears that he embodies.
Right.
It's a reminder that those fears have been with us for centuries, woven into our folklore and our history.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to note that Stoker doesn't shy away from the darkness in Dracula.
Right.
He explores those complexities of human nature, the betrayals, the manipulations, the thirst for power that can drive people to do terrible things.
And those themes run throughout Dracula as well.
Exactly.
It's not just a story about vampires.
Right.
It's a story about the human heart,
Yeah.
about the choices we make and the consequences that follow.
And the fact that Dracula ends with a truce, not a decisive victory,
Right.
adds another layer of complexity. It suggests that the battle between good and evil is never truly over.
For sure.
There's always a chance for darkness to resurface.
It's a reminder that we can't afford to be complacent.
Right.
We have to be vigilant in guarding against the forces that seek to exploit and manipulate us,
Yeah.
both within ourselves and in the world around us.
Exactly. And I think one of the key takeaways from both Dracula and Dracula is that the real monsters aren't always the ones with fangs and a thirst for blood.
Right.
Sometimes the most terrifying creatures are the ones we create ourselves.
Right.
The darkness that we harbor within.
So what does this all mean for us as readers, as listeners?
Yeah.
What are we supposed to take away from this deep dive into Dracula and its connection to Dracula?
I think it's a challenge to question our assumptions.
Okay.
To look beyond the surface of things and to be aware of the power of stories.
Right.
Both the ones we tell ourselves and the ones that are told to us.
It's also a reminder that history is never truly settled,
Yeah.
that there are always new layers to uncover, new perspectives to consider.
And perhaps most importantly, it's a call to be mindful of the darkness within ourselves.
Yeah.
To confront our own shadows and strive to be the best versions of ourselves, even in the face of fear and uncertainty.
Well, there you have it. A deep dive into Dracula, a story that blends history, mystery, and a touch of the macabre.
Right?
We've explored the shadowy world of Bram Stoker's childhood,
We did.
met a nanny who was anything but ordinary,
Yes.
and uncovered a conspiracy that stretches back centuries.
We've seen how real-life events and historical figures can inspire works of fiction,
Right.
and how those stories can, in turn, reflect back on our own understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
Absolutely. If you're looking for a good scare this weekend, I highly recommend checking out both the Dracula manuscript and Bram Stoker's classic Dracula. But be warned,
Yeah.
you might find yourself sleeping with the lights on.
Just sweetie dreams.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder the mysteries we've uncovered today. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and as always, keep exploring the depths of knowledge.